Hi, this is Andy of Andy's Personal Development, and we are currently live in the breakout room. So, welcome and welcome, and we love being here for you with quality and value to inspire and to transform. Remember, we are on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, and iTunes. Today, as usual, we have a special guest to share with you for your development and growth and to live your better informed life. So, grab a cup, pull up a seat, and stay tuned for the introduction right here, now, live in the breakout room. It's the place for health, happiness, and prosperity. Stay tuned. Our next guest in the breakout room is the co-owner and CEO of Fulcrum HR Consulting. Fulcrum HR Consulting provides cost-effective solutions to work with businesses in small, medium, and large enterprises with a focus on scaling businesses who need help maintaining their day-to-day HR functions. This is our guest. Her name is Kelly Kubicek. She is supported in business by her partners, Jethro Hopkins and Jeff Dosha. She has extensive background working in human relations in both the public and private sectors, including Fortune 500 companies, from testifying as a subject matter expert to working HR investigations to developing state policy and more. She's also a member of the Forbes Human Resources Council and is the leading face of Fulcrum HR Consulting. So, let's welcome this master HR consultant live in the breakout room, Kelly Kubicek. And we are live and welcome to the breakout room on Andy's Personal Development. And Kelly is with us. How are you, Kelly, today?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, good, good. Thanks for asking. Thank you so much for coming on. We look forward to a very special show with you to share your expertise and some values that you would bring with regards to strategic business consulting and all the other stuff that you do at Fulcrum. Kelly, let's begin with you telling us a bit about yourself as far back as you can remember, maybe the first 5 or 7 or 8 years of your life. We all have a foundation where we would have started from. And, that would have brought us to where we are today. So many impressions that we would have had as young people, the things we'd like to do and grow up and so on. But what was it like for you as far back as you can remember? Do you have any fond memories of your childhood days?
Yeah. So, when I think back as far as I can remember, I think back to when I was really young.
Huh?
I was born and raised in Lincoln, Nebraska. That's where I still live at. So, Cornhusker at heart. So, not a lot to do here other than play outside in the dirt. I was very much tomboy when I was growing up. I was raised by my mother and father. My mother worked in the hospital. She actually met my dad there. He was actually working at a janitor part time while he was in the guard with military, where he ended up getting promoted and went on to do greater things in life. But when I think about my childhood, I really think about all the time that I would spend with my dad. And just how that really impacted me as a leader. And I would fish and we would go and do all of these things together. But really, I think back to my childhood, I just think about all the memories that my dad took intentional time to make sure that he made with me. So fishing is something near and dear to my heart because that's something that I've done with my dad for a long time. However, I can say while I was growing up, I was a
Ah,
little bit of a troublemaker. Actually,
okay.
when I went into high school, I was actually quite a poor student.
Mm-hmm.
I did make cheerleading and I did softball and I did lots of extracurricular activities, but really what I wanted to do was work. I wanted to make money. So when
Mm.
that was something my parents gave to me, was that they wanted me to earn everything that I had. And so I did. So I worked 2 jobs. At the age of 14, I started working. At the age of 15, I had 2 jobs. I worked at Arby's and Red Lobster,
Wow.
and I was going to school. However, historically, I was a poor student. I did graduate high school, even with those hiccups early at the age of 17.
Right.
And I decided I didn't know what I wanted to do yet, so I was going to hold off on going to college, which
Mm.
we normally we normally know how that goes once
Yeah.
you make that decision. But I went into actually selling cars.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was good at sales, and it was something I thought would be fun to do. And actually, that ended up with one day our payroll department had left, and they said, "Hey, Kelly, you're good with numbers. Why don't you get in there and run the company's
Ah,
payroll?"
right, right.
Yeah, so it was an epic failure. I'll tell you, my first payroll was terrible. But the will, if you will, to make sure that it got done either way was seen, and I ended up getting promoted. And over a course of 3 years, I actually helped implement a lot of software and procedures that allowed us to implement 55 new locations in the region I was responsible for, and then ended up as people director.
Mm-hmm.
So in that position, I learned a lot about HR, but I also learned a lot about sales development and leadership training and development, those kinds of things that come along with that position.
Yeah.
I went on to another larger dealership and I oversaw the company from a corporate level. And I really got to the point where I realized that we could be doing so much more from the HR perspective if we combined it with sales, if we kind of took out that HR fun police that came along with policing a company to death. So I stepped out into consulting,
Mm-hmm.
which is where I ended up working in Fortune 500 and public sector to implement large projects. And in my last large project with the state of Nebraska, where we implemented and consolidated an entire payroll system for the state of Nebraska for about 9,000 people, I really realized under this shared services model that we had created
Mm-hmm.
that we could take this and provide a bigger value to smaller businesses
Yeah.
by giving them access to a team of resources at a fraction of the cost by allocating out their time correctly. So that's where the idea from Fulcrum really came from, was how can we provide HR or return on individuals from the consulting perspective by
Right.
helping take care of that transactional piece of the day to day that comes with HR without being the fun police and actually creating value. So
Wonderful.
that's kind of from then to
So
now.
now, yeah, great. Fantastic legacy, Kelly. Thanks for sharing. Along the way, I want to get to some of the skills that you would have learned and enhanced
Yeah.
from a business perspective. But before we do that, tell me about the life skills that you would have learned, because it seems as though you had an extensive period of time that you would have gone through the transitions, moving from job to job. You worked 2 jobs and stuff. What are some of the life skills that you would have learned that is helping you now today in your success?
I think I go back to, I always say grit and grace is really something
Hmm.
that I live by. And that was something that was really transformed through struggle. I can definitely tell you it was not always easy.
Yeah,
And grit is really just that perseverance that no matter what adversity you face or opposition that comes before you, that you have the will to keep going, because it's going to hurt if you quit and it's going to hurt if you keep going. So you can either use that pain to level up where you're at and use that to be able to teach, or you can stop. And so that was just never okay for me. That was something my dad taught to me from a very young age, is when you make the intent to do something, you're going to see it all the way through. And even if you fail, that's okay. We make mistakes and we'll
yeah,
learn from them, but it's not okay to give up. But
that's right.
within that, people need grace. And
Yeah,
I think the biggest thing that I learned is I've been through many times in my life where I was very alone and I needed somebody. And you don't always know what people are going through. And I think the biggest thing about engagement on teams, that life perspective, is how can you enable someone to see when someone else needs that grace. And so I think that life skill is something that really just transformed through struggle, and it hasn't always been easy. So those are two things that I really hold valuable, just that I've learned environmentally through time.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. I can
Yeah.
sense the passion and the emotion in your voice, and I know how dear that is
Yeah.
important. We thank you for that. So, in addition to that, you learn some very important strategic skills, and it helped you so much so that you were able to do business on your own with Fulcrum. And of course, you would have come to a place where policies and strategies and so on have been the hallmark of the legacy that you're building. How did you incorporate the two together? Did you do any more formal studies, or was it a matter of a combination of the formal studies and what you would have learned along the way as you went from business to business and finally ended up at Fulcrum? What was the amalgamation like for you?
I think that education is definitely something that went into that, and just a lot of
Mhm.
research. But I think that critical thinking through that path, and being able
Yeah,
to identify gaps and nuances where gaps exist to be able to enable strategic movement is really something that has evolved along the way. Critical thinking has enabled me to be able to identify those gaps faster and also predict what will happen if there's an issue. So I
okay,
think that having the background to understand what's historically happened, and really doing research at that level, along with just doing and learning, has enabled that, really, that strategic movement. But as a person, I'm naturally very curious, right? I'm so inquisitive that I'm like, well, just because we haven't done it, what happens if we do? And
yeah,
because I am like that, the innovation is enabled, I think, on a different level.
great, wonderful. So, what was the moment that you arrived at when you decided that Fulcrum was going to be a reality? What it is that pushed you, and how did it actually begin to become a force to reckon with as it is today?
Yes. So a couple of my consultants on my team, specifically Ashley Henry, who's my director of operations now, and I
Mm-hmm.
have worked on consulting deals multiple times over the years, including the state of Nebraska together.
Right,
And I got to the point where I was doing all of this work with teams, and I got to see all of these teams grow together, and it was very humbling. But I wanted that for myself, because said, wow, what would happen if we had our own team that we were doing this with? And then we also got to provide that on a higher level. I
right.
knew that we could reach more people together than we ever would alone. And so I think we got to the point where we said, we're going to do it. And I knew I needed some strategic partners. So I sought them out. Jeff and Jethro have really enabled me to be able to grow at a different level, not just through the network, but also just in mentorship. So
Okay,
I
great.
appreciate that. But that's really where it came from, was the desire to have the team to be able to support other teams at a higher level.
Great. Thanks for sharing, Kelly. That's inspirational. Tell us, what is the main focus of Fulcrum in terms of its vision and the impact that it wants to have on the business world? What it is that drives you guys to come up with the stuff that you do day after day, and it continues to be successful?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of twofold. So I think on one side, HR has always kind of had this perspective of being overhead or kind of disvalued as a seat at the table. So I think that will inside me to say, hey, let's get us a seat at the table to show you what we can do.
Right.
That doesn't have to be me fun policing your business.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's there just because we know what that impact is and the revenue there.
Yeah.
But really, if you look at Fulcrum as a model, we have outsourcing, we have consulting, and we have training and development.
Okay. Okay.
So really, if you look at small business, the intent is to be able to provide what might be available at a larger enterprise, those resources and that knowledge to small business to help them scale and grow. But we have to
Mm-hmm.
take care of those transactional pieces first. So that's where outsourcing comes in. Then we get into strategy and building leaders, because the intent is that you can scale your business, and then you can get to an exit strategy if you want to sell it, if you want to merge. What do you want to do? At every point, we are all on limited time. So for small businesses, it's what are you trying to accomplish? How do we help you get there? How do we help you get there faster? And also enable a team to grow with you, to reap that reward with you along the way.
Okay, great. I'm thinking based on what you're saying, do you have this model where you work with these companies and you incorporate their vision, or do
Right.
you help them to create a further vision? Because we know we have some challenging economic times, and
Yeah.
there are some areas in which businesses are going to struggle. But how do you develop the working model with the business? Is it a combination of your model and their vision, or do you sit with them and together come up with something new?
So it's always a holistic view. It always has to be holistic, because really, when you're looking at anything with human factor, you have to understand
Hmm?
what is your nuances along the way. So I can't come in and just say this cookie cutter model works with every single business. We have
Right.
things that we know work, but if it won't work for your business or your culture, it's a mute point.
Okay, great.
So typically what we do is we come in and we do sit down with business owners, and it's very common. You might not have a vision statement, you might not have core values set.
Hmm.
It's integral to a culture,
Yeah,
and those values in that mission statement really help people and your staff align to business objectives.
yeah,
So together, that's where we really say, where are we at and where are we trying to go? And how do we communicate over a duration of time? And what do we need to implement? And how do we measure it to make sure it's working? To
right.
really make sure that we have people all the way from the bottom up and the top down, because we're interdependent on each other, to maintain alignment to the business objective. Because that's really what we're trying to do. If people stay aligned to an overall business objective, we should meet the strategic trajectory of wherever we're trying to go. But we have to create that together and communicate it in a way that is able to be digested by staff. So it's really that holistic view. And we spend a lot of time together with our clients specifically for that reason. So we can make sure that it's going to have intent and
Mm.
it's going to have value, and that we have a way to measure it through time and then make a plan to implement it. And then we start going. So that's kind of how we approach it.
Okay, yeah, great. Thanks for sharing, Kelly. Um, there are two things that are going on in my mind as you speak. First of all, let me just ask you this. Are you currently working with any community development organizations, helping them to deal with their public relations and human resource challenges?
We do have a couple of community development, including nonprofit
Yeah,
clients that
yeah,
specifically their work is social and to impact the
right.
community that they work in. And we do work with the clients in that perspective, because not only is it an external stakeholder thing, it's an internal stakeholder thing.
Right.
So anything that impacts a business, public relation wise, will have impact on the staff and your retention and your recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
So those things and how they're promoted, and even the things that you can't control, really do impact the engagement of staff. So what we do in those situations is we make a plan to say, are we talking to staff? Are we listening to if they have concerns about them? Do we create time for them to have that communication? And
Yeah,
then we do a lot of surveys, things like that, so we can really gauge where is the staff feeling about what's going on, and then how can we help promote a better foresight for what people will see from the outside.
yeah, yeah.
How can we create a better vision from that perspective also? And we can only do so much from our perspective. We have strategic partners that we can put in
Mm.
touch with, but I think from the perspective of HR, the biggest thing is sometimes we forget about how that external sometimes impacts the internal.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing, Kelly.
Yeah.
You mentioned your work with the state of Nebraska with regards to policy building and stuff. Um, if you were to be given advice to entrepreneurs, people who are looking to develop and grow new ideas, build new companies, new organizations, in terms of that HR scenario, what are some of the things that you would advise them now as far as dealing with the economy and the relationship with regards to their personnel staff and so on, to navigate around those things and to create that business model that would be successful? What are some of the things that you would tell them?
I think there's three integral things that any business owner that's either just starting or hasn't started or is even just trying to sustain through the economic impact that's coming. I think the first thing that companies can really do is really educate yourself on what competitive advantage looks like for where you're at with your staff. So if you know you're small and you have 5 people and you might not have health insurance, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we need to find out what can we implement that is going to not only retain our staff, what's important to them, what do they want. Maybe my staff doesn't really need health insurance,
Yeah.
but they'd really like that gym membership, and maybe we can do an alternating 4-day weekend where we have staff working 410 so they can have a 3-day weekend. There's lots of strategic things you can do. You just need to find out what your competition is doing so you can retain and recruit, right? So those things are really integral to your competitive advantage. Talk to your people, ask them what they want, right? There's lots of things that you can do that don't have to have a huge monetary impact to your organization. I think the second thing that any business owners or inspiring entrepreneurs could be doing is really educating themselves on passive recruiting, because historically you put an ad out on Indeed, we wait for someone to come to us.
Yeah.
Well, in sales, normally we understand that if people are coming to us, right, the sale is normally a quicker close. So if you look at recruiting the same way, because we want them to come and work for us, you need to be really looking at things like TikTok, things that a lot of owners haven't looked at. People perceive ads and entertainment in a better way. They digest it faster. Not only that, but it's easier to recruit from those platforms if they're coming to you, and you can really hone in on your culture. And that's another competitive advantage. You want people to align to your culture. And then I think lastly is assessments are highly underutilized. You might have heard of Gallup Strength Finder. We use Crystal at my company because that has multiple in there. Get to know your staff or find out who you need to be working with. Don't hire people who are just like you. I think that's another thing that really people need to, it's a very low cost. Even if you're going to hire one person, educate yourself on that person. Find out what motivates them. Where are their gaps? Where are their strengths? What are you missing on your team? By identifying those gaps sooner, you have strategic advantage of speed. So instead of trying to figure it out when there's conflict that happens, or maybe you realize there's an issue because you're churning a position time after time, educate yourself up front. For a couple $100, it can save you a lot of money. Right now, it costs an average business over $10,000 minimum just to replace a position. So invest the money up front, invest in your people, and they'll give it back to you.
Great, wonderful. That was very encouraging, inspirational, and I'm sure that would provide a lot of value for people who are willing to go into business and to understand certain strategies that they can use to help them attain the success for the visions that they have. We are live in the breakout room, folks, with Kelly Kubicek, the CEO of Fulcrum HR Consulting. And we're going to take a quick break. She's been providing us with some tremendous information, including information on her personal success as well as what is happening at Fulcrum. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break. Thank you for staying on with Andy's Personal Development live in the breakout room. Stand by.
FindRadioGuest.com, the place to click to find guests to interview for free. And if you're a radio show booker, podcaster, talk show host, or television producer, then this is the place to get podcasts and radio interviews or promote your books and products as a guest expert sponsor. FindRadioGuest.com. Check it out. Hi people, this is a special invitation for you to join our community. Yes, we're inviting you to join our community for 2022. What's in store? Well, what we want is your feedback on our content and our guests, but more so on what you need to be inspired and transformed from your current condition to one of happiness, health, and prosperity. So drop us a line and reach out. Help us to better help you achieve your goals. So, people, inbox me at www.facebook.com/mddreamer/. That's www.facebook.com/mddreamer/. Or send me an email at lovebitsa@gmail.com. That's lovebitsa at gmail.com. We love hearing from you as we build our partnership in growth and development, and we look forward to your communicating. Help us to help you to live a better life in personal growth and development from Andy's Personal Development. We love you. We look forward to hearing from you. See you soon. Bye for now.
So we are live back in the breakout room with Kelly Kubicek, the CEO of Fulcrum HR Consultant. And you missed a tremendous amount of valuable information if you were not here before. So, Kelly, as we continue our conversation, you mentioned the word competition a while ago, and I'm thinking, what is it like in the circle, in the realm that Fulcrum maintains their business posture? What are some of the challenges that you're faced with, including the competition? Can you tell us a bit about that?
For Fulcrum, like for my own business?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. So I'll tell you, Fulcrum 100% has been originally the black sheep of our profession. So honestly, a lot of the things that we do and just how we approach policy and compliance, we know where black and white exists. Gray area is our specialty.
Uh-huh.
Competition wise, we do have a lot of competition just as far as how do you identify one HR from another HR department on one phone call. So we definitely have that impacts us. So a big part of what we do is really getting the word out there about what we do and why we're different, how we approach our mentalities, our philosophies.
Yeah.
But as far as the actual work and the cost that we do, honestly, we don't, our competition, we just don't have it because how we approach our outsourcing and our model for our clients
Yeah.
doesn't really exist on the market because we took it from public sector and large market and brought it to small business. So
Hmm.
we have identified that gap to provide more at a smaller cost. So we have competitive advantage there. But we do just like any other any other business, right? We do have our weaknesses and our threats just because of the nature of our business.
Yeah. Great. Thanks for sharing, Kelly. So tell us, what is the vision like for Fulcrum going forward? What are some of the things that you guys feel you are yet to engage in or to try or to expand? Are there any plans in the making for that?
Yes. So Fulcrum just recently became an authorized partner of Wiley Disc. So we have now started really implementing our leadership cohorts and programs, as well as our human capital consulting. That really is going to be something that not only comes through maybe in a couple of years once we've worked with the business that's on the smaller side, but really to get back into Fortune 500 and public sector, corporate, large enterprises to really be able to bring what we've learned from the more human touch
Mhm.
back to large enterprises and impact them in a larger way that hasn't been seen before. So we're really excited about that. We'll be
Right.
able to bring work of leaders to small and large enterprises that has been historically very successful. So we're really excited about that.
Great. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Are you considering some biography or book or a novel for the future with regards to your experience and the expertise you have gained and the experiences at Fulcrum?
Yes. So
Right.
here come in quarter 4, we'll all start writing my book. And really, it's going to be based off of the crazy untold stories of things I've seen and interacted with, but things that do impact business.
Yeah.
So it'll be funny, it'll be honest,
Hmm.
but it will be also what did I learn from those and how can we share that with business owners in a way that makes people want to read about HR. So that's really what that book is going to be about.
Ah, great. Sounds like something to look forward to. Thanks for sharing, Kelly.
Yeah.
Tell me something in terms of your personal growth, your personal development, and so on. How have you been able to merge what you have succeeded in as a business person together with some of the things that you have achieved personally for yourself? Do you often struggle with it, or is there some sort of system that you use that is allowing you to engage fully in the business and at the same time still accomplish your personal goals?
For me, I think the biggest thing that I talk to people about is that there's no separation between work life balance and work for me.
Uh-huh.
And that's something that comes back from my family, and it's something that me and my husband talked about extensively.
Yeah.
My husband actually worked in corrections for almost 18 years, and thankfully,
Oh,
because Fulcrum has been successful, he actually has gotten to leave and spend time with our daughter, which was nice. But I think that sometimes we put such a focus on a separation between personal development and business, especially
mhm.
as an entrepreneur, that we forget it is who we are. And a lot of who we are with an entrepreneurial spirit
Yeah.
lives in both places. But I think time management really just comes down to, if you need to do something for your business, or if you need to do something for your family, you take that intentional time. And that means you put your phone down when you're with your kids. If you made intentional time to sit down for dinner with your kids, put your phone away, have them put their phone away, right? Spend intentional time. Same thing with business. I spend an extensive amount of time with my own team, but I also spend that much time with my clients. But I thoroughly enjoy it,
Hmm.
because I love that value. But I see it more in me as a leader. My job is to also teach, mentor, and grow my own team. So part of that is teaching those skills and growing them as they spend more time with clients to support that model also. So it all just ties together. I just
Hmm.
make sure whatever I'm doing, I make the intentional time to focus on that. And that time management and really sticking to it is integral to having sanity, I think, as a business owner sometimes.
Okay. Great. Great. Thanks for sharing, Kelly. I want you to take us inside Fulcrum a bit. Recently, I've worked with some people, and they are concerned about some of the effects of COVID-19, that it has impacted on their staff in a negative manner. And it has increased the level of challenges that they have to deal with from a human resource perspective. I'm wondering, how was it for you for the past 2 years dealing with the aspects of handling COVID, and at still managing, at a full level, some of the human resources challenges that you would have faced within Fulcrum? What was it like for you guys?
COVID-19 has been so impactful, I think, on so many levels. But
Hmm.
for us, it really was an opportunity to really provide that human touch of what HR is really there for, because the regulatory standards that came along with COVID-19, both from a federal down to a state to a municipality level, was very complex. It was constantly changing. However, that's where we thrive. Chaos is what we do. That's what we help manage. So for us, I think the biggest thing that it impacted, I think, was really transforming, helping it educate, but also transforming into a more adaptable workplace. And I think the biggest impact that we see is, what is the impact of a hybrid work model? What does it mean if we don't have staff in office? So I think the hardest challenge is really maintaining engagement more than anything through COVID, with people being remote. So for us, providing that support was challenging, but it was also fulfilling for us because we got to show that value in a way that hadn't been seen before.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing. Kelly, tell me something. Do you have a mentor in your life, someone that you turn to in times of doubt, times of concern, or when you need to make that big decision that's going to impact on your business or your personal life, your career and stuff? Is there that silent voice that you go, and you get that information that you need, and they set you right? They just keep you grounded. That mentoring person.
Yes. So when you talk about business and personal, right, I kind of always feel like I have two mentors. My dad has always been a mentor to me. I know that my dad's going to shoot it to me straight, right?
Right.
So regardless, he's going to tell me how he feels about it. He knows that I'm going to still do what I feel is right at the end of the day. But I think the biggest thing that my dad, mentor wise, has ever taught me is that how important it is to remove concern from others.
Right.
So I very much value my dad's input. He very much shaped me as a leader.
Hmm.
And then on the other side of that, business wise, my business partners, Jeff and Jethro, I very much believe in not making decisions in silos if you can help it.
Okay.
I'm very confident in my decisions. However, I also know the value of others. their experience, especially with Jeff. Jeff is definitely someone that I could turn to anytime that I have a complex issue. And most of the time, it's just something that I haven't experienced before. I would really value just the knowledge that comes along with it. So I think that those voices, even if I don't go to them directly, just spending time with them and really getting to pick their brain sometimes. And when I feel lost, I can go to either one of them and they'll help set me straight. So,
Great. Are
yeah.
you currently mentoring anyone? Is there anyone that you have seen some semblance of your drive and your commitment, and you're saying, you know what, I need to invest in that person because I've always learned that greatness is something that you should replicate. And do you see anyone in your organization or even outside of your organization that you say to yourself, you know what, I can mentor that person and maybe they can even be more successful than I am?
Yeah, so internally, I feel like I mentor my entire staff daily. We are still a small enough team that we get to do that. I mentor Ashley Henry, my director of ops. She has so much potential and she grows every day, but really just mentoring her more so in the leadership aspect of growing up a larger team at scale is really, we spend a lot of time there. And then Colton Steer is a business associate of ours. He owns Spotlight VR actually with my business partners Jeff and Jethro. And
Yeah.
man, I spend a lot of time with him. He has so much potential, but really he's like a sponge, right? So he just loves to absorb and learn. And it's a good exchange. I learn a lot from him also. The kid has more woo than I've ever seen in my life. He can just have the most engaging conversations with anybody at any time. So I think mentorship comes along with also understanding that as a mentor, you can still learn
Hmm.
as the mentor, and it has to be that exchange. So it's not a power dynamic. So I think that that's really how I identify mentorship as the altruistic state and the exchange of learning.
Yeah, great. That's inspirational, Kelly. Thanks. Tell me something. What is your big why? What is the big why for Kelly? What gets you out of bed in the morning, keeps you going through the day, and at the end of it, you're satisfied that you have fulfilled what you consider to be um, your space of competence. What is the big why for you?
Again, I think I go back to when I identified young that I wanted to be a leader and I naturally would take leadership positions and take charge of situations. I think the biggest thing that I identified as an adult was that something I identified in my father was, again, his ability to remove concern from others and how much value I placed there and how much value I placed in others. And so I really sought to be able to do that at its highest level, not only in my own commitment, but also out of respect for what my father gave me as a gift to be able to share with others.
Yeah.
And I think from there, it's really, if you think about any family that's ever accomplished wealth through time, there was a time when they did not have that in their family. And there's always that one person that makes it change. And for me and my family, that's me. So I'm going to make sure that sustainable wealth, not just from Fulcrum, but I think about for my kids and my kids' kids and through all of these economic things that we go through,
Yeah.
they still need to earn it, but let's create something so they have more opportunity than even I was given. But I've experienced a lot of struggle along the way, and I think that really being able to get to a point where we can see leaders embrace empathy, to be able to remove concern from others, and to be able to create the sustainable wealth as a business owner they're trying to do aligns with my why. And so that why really is a full circle. I want to remove concern from others. I want to create sustainable wealth for my family, but I want to also enable other business owners to be able to do that in a way that hasn't been seen before.
Yeah. Wow. I need to take a breath for that one, Kelly.
You crack me up.
I'm hearing empathy, and it's a powerful concept in terms of a virtue that all great leaders have, and it's a wonderful thing that you speak of it in such high terms. I really appreciate that, and I commend you for that. And
Thank you.
so I want you to look at this video. It's very short, and I want you to tell me what is the whole story surrounding this video. All right. So
Okay.
There we go.
Hi everybody. I just wanted to check in. It is pretty late. It's actually 12:30 in the morning. I'm just getting home into the driveway from work today. I wanted to give a huge shout out and a thank you to everyone that came out to the Fulcrum HR Consulting Open House. We appreciate you, our business leaders that share our visions, our partners that we work with. I know that Jethro and Jeff would both say the same thing. I do absolutely 100% have to give a shout out to Jethro specifically for pulling everything together today. I was not able to help set up for the event. However, he definitely took it under his belt and was the real MVP for everybody and myself today, as I was not able to help like I would have liked to. He definitely doesn't get enough appreciation, so thank you so much.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Tell us about that, Kelly.
So, Fulcrum HR Consulting, when we moved into our new office, had an open house. And so I consistently come home pretty late in the evening. So I shot this video, but really the intention of it was that day, it was a big party we were going to have and invite lots of business owners, respected business owners, people that you wouldn't want to embarrass yourself in front of. It's a lot to set up for those kinds of things. I should have been there that morning. I had an emergency that I had to take care of. And when I talk about grit and grace, this is a perfect example. So we were going. I had something that I needed grace in. My business partner gave me that, but he also took it under his belt to set up for the party. And so I wanted to publicly acknowledge him because that's important for him to be acknowledged. And so I wanted to make sure that he knows that it's a not only just thank you, but thank you so much. I want everyone to know that you did that for us. And so I think that was really the intention of it. Was sometimes we don't give our own team, even our partners, a shout out as often as we should. And so that's what the intention was.
Yeah, that was really sweet of you and encouraging and inspirational. Thank you for sharing. We just have a small audience, and we just want to say shout out to you guys. We appreciate. There's one like on the comment section. So as we continue, and well, we're gonna come to the end of this episode now. What we want to do is give Kelly the opportunity to share with you guys her information, how you can make contact with Fulcrum, how you can get her expertise. Maybe you can reach out on the social media hashtags and so on. So, Kelly, it's up to you. You just have a minute or so. Share with the people your important information, how they can reach out to you and Fulcrum for your expertise and your services.
Absolutely. You can reach us at fulcrumhrconsulting.com via the contact us form. You can also find me on LinkedIn/IN/Kelly Kubicek, on Instagram at Kelly_Kubi, Kubi. You can also text us on WhatsApp at 402-803-4014 at any time. You can also find me on my Forbes Council executive page if you'd like to read my articles. You can just search Forbes Kelly Kubicek, and my executive profile will come up with my written articles for you to read through.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing. There's one more question that we'd like to ask you, Kelly. And
Absolutely.
as we come to the end, there are so many things that are happening in the world today. I probably shouldn't even mention some of them because they are more negative than they are positive. But that's all right. It is what it is. What is, if you had the entire world listening to you, just about 8 billion people, and you had a mic, and you had one thing to say to the world in terms of something that could inspire people, what would you say to them?
I think the biggest thing that I would say to anyone right now is that a lot of people are trying to acquire or build a kingdom
Mm-hmm.
in a world where everyone's trying to be a lion.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that lions don't have to roar to be
Yeah.
the king of the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would share.
Wow, that's powerful. Thanks for sharing, Kelly. And thanks for coming on our show on Andy's Personal Development. It was a pleasure having you, sharing your information, your expertise, and the vision of Fulcrum and how you're going to continue to expand and grow and develop. and empathize with people in your strata and line of business. So, folks, thanks for sharing with us your time, and we pray that you would continue to have much success in your personal life as well as your business life with Fulcrum going ahead. Much success for you guys in your plans to expand, and that don't get tender right. We look forward to hearing from you guys. Until next time, this is Andy of Andy's Personal Development saying so long, God bless, shalom, namaste. Take care of yourselves, guys, and remember the two watchwords: health, happiness, and prosperity. Live for them. So long. See you soon.